Hello and welcome to this episode of Demystified as we explore home cooking in a modern world. Hello, I'm Linda from Cooking with Steam and I'm sitting here with Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Linda.
And today...
And we're back.
We've been talking a lot about different elements of cooking. We've done chicken and fish, and I'd like to talk about baking. But before we get to that point, I think we need to talk about, and I'm going to put you on notice, the importance of eggs.
Eggs. And
how to cook eggs in a steam oven or a combi steam oven. But you know from my personal experience how important eggs are in cakes.
Well, yeah. Oh, that was
another one of that. Yeah, I hadn't forgotten. I thought you hadn't forgotten either. But eggs are something that is so versatile.
Why don't we tell people what happened, Linda?
Maybe later in the podcast.
No, from a perfect recipe that I built and designed, you then completed that recipe successfully at least half a dozen times. True?
True.
And then one day...
Got confident, got cocky.
Got a bit ahead of yourself.
And was making chocolate cake. Everyone listening, making chocolate cake for a very important young family friend's birthday, and forgot the eggs. And it didn't rise, so we kept steaming it. In the end, I called Paul and said,
what happened was, I actually rocked up at your place the following day, and it was sitting out on the bench top.
Oh, that's right.
And it was like a black pancake. It was very...
He said, you didn't buy eggs. How did you put it? You hadn't bought any eggs. That's right.
Yeah.
And
anyway,
so, yes, that was how we know.
Eggs are important, Linda. Very good topic today.
But they're also one of my favourite things to make on the weekend, particularly if you've got large numbers of people staying over after a footy weekend. So, Paul, eggs.
Eggs. Okay, where do we start? So, probably one of the most common questions I get, and I have gotten at cooking demonstrations and classes and all the rest of it, is, can you poach an egg in a steam oven?
Can you poach an egg in a steam oven, Paul?
Okay. Now, maybe I'm being a little bit nitpicky here, but if we think about the two... Now, I'm really bad with English and grammar, but the two words that are the key in that sentence, can you poach an egg in a steam oven? Poaching is one method of cooking and steaming is another, and they are totally different methods of cooking. Poaching is in a liquid, a stock, a water, a something, and it's immersed in that liquid. Steaming is not. So can you poach an egg in a steam oven? In theory, yes you can. If you put water into a container and put that container into the steam oven and use the steam oven to maintain the temperature of the water, kind of like what we've done previously with sort of sous vide cooking. Are you poaching then? Yes, you are. If you put an egg into a steam oven with nothing else around it, nothing else happening, just the egg itself, are you poaching it or are you steaming it? You're steaming it. Correct. So can you poach an egg in a steam oven? In theory, yes, you can. Are you poaching if you don't have a liquid involved? In the truest sense of the word, you're not.
Well, I know why you get asked that question, because it's one of the things that as a novice home cook, we all love poached eggs, but it's hard making them, and we've all seen the recipes where you throw in vinegar, or you pour it from a teacup, or you don't have the water moving too fast, or it's not moving fast enough.
Oh, I mean, we can, and do you know what? I'd be happy to talk about how to poach an egg on your stovetop properly. And I can run you through it very quickly.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Next time you've got your cook on, and we'll do a little video of it, Paul, because I think it might make more sense if you do a video of it.
Okay. But I am working on, and we will post this as a recipe probably in the next month or so. I have come up with an idea of how to poach an egg. I haven't done it yet, but just to give everyone the heads up, and I doubt anyone's going to try it before we do. What I was planning on doing was getting a muffin tin and filling each cavity of the muffin tin with a vinegared water, putting that inside the oven and let it heat, or putting boiling water in the cavity in the muffin tin itself at the start, putting that inside the oven and then cracking an egg into each cavity. So someone could do effectively 12 poached eggs, because it's in a liquid, in their steam oven, and they would be proper poached eggs. So you could poach en masse, if you like.
Ooh.
So that's a potential sort of down the tracker, and that will hopefully, my idea being, hopefully dismiss the argument of like, do you stir the water? Do you put vinegar? Do you put lemon juice? How hot does the water need to be? How much water do we need to have? Like, there's so many questions about poaching eggs. I mean, we're getting really sidetracked and we're just talking about one method of cooking for eggs, but that's my plan, is to try and do a muffin tray's worth of poached eggs in the steam oven.
Okay, well, let's stay tuned and we'll see if that,
I know. I mean,
we'll
I have no
works.
idea. It's like, a lot of this is theory in my brain. Whether it actually occurs or not is a different question.
And sometimes, yes, it could be a dark place in there, Paul, but anyway, we'll see how we go. But one of the first dishes that you did when cooking with steam, which I still do now on a regular basis, is the eggs in the little dish with the butter on the sides. You pour the egg, a little bit of tomato relish at the bottom.
Yeah, so in a like a cocotte or a little porcelain dish.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good sort of breakfast number. It's just throw the egg in. It's like a sort of like a semi-baked egg, but it's not, because we use steam.
Yeah.
Try
different things, whatever's available at the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's fresh tomato, sometimes
you can
it's
put some
chocolate.
parmesan on there.
Yeah, I do. I grate a little bit of parmesan on top. So that works really well. And you can do that en masse, so when there's a few people around.
If you've got enough little dishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily.
Yeah.
I do.
But no, that's a good one. And one of the reasons we're talking eggs today is it's been kind of topical this week. I've done a lot of egg cookery, and recently quite a bit of egg cookery, specifically around sweet and savoury custards, because they're the thing that sets your custards. So there'll be a recipe in the not too distant future, if it's not already up on the website, which is like a Japanese egg custard. It's a savoury egg custard, made with a dashi stock, really super silky smooth. But I mean, the importance of eggs we can't understate for baking, for what they do for even, I think we've got a recipe, and we've done recipes using pastries, all sorts of different puff pastries and all that sort of stuff. The colour that an egg yolk will give to a pastry is extraordinary. People who blind bake, and we're getting a bit of feedback from people these days that want more cakes and baking recipes, and people that blind bake a tart shell. I can tell you that the best way to actually seal the tart shell is about 5 minutes before it's finished baking, is brush the base of it with egg yolk and bake the egg yolk on, and that puts almost like a seal. So if you're making a lemon tart, the pastry doesn't go soggy when you pour your lemon curd mix on top.
Do you know, I've never seen that in any of the recipes that they actually say that. I don't think I've ever read that.
I do that for every lemon tart that I've ever made.
It's because you're my favourite chef. But I've never seen that, Paul, ever. That little hint, helpful hint there.
We're all about hints and tips, Linda.
We are. I know that, Paul. But one of the other issues about eggs is putting them in an egg carton. We've seen a few people do that.
Yeah. And cook them in the egg carton, you mean?
Cook them in the egg carton.
Can be done, of course.
Doesn't
be done.
Get too soggy?
No. Well, it depends on your oven. The good thing about that is it really depends on what end result you want. If you want the easiest thing to do in your steam oven with eggs is a hard boil, right? You're adding it to a potato salad, or you're making your old school, when I was a child, curried egg sandwich. So the hard boil is the easiest, right? You throw it in there, and you're probably talking about 12-15 minutes. And you can just throw the eggs straight in. You can throw them in the carton. It's good in the carton because it kind of keeps the egg still. If an egg moves as it cooks, the yolk moves. If that makes sense. You're kind of nodding.
I am nodding for those who can't see, but yes.
So the yolk will move and slosh about a bit, and maybe not stay central if the egg itself is moving as it cooks. So people throwing it in the carton is, fine, whatever. If the carton gets a bit wet, well, whatever. But the eggs are still, which is...
Okay. So what temperature for poached?
Full tilt, 100 degrees, full steam.
And if you want your soft eggs, so that you
Well, you
can
see,
dip your-
and this is like I've done a whole heap of testing on a whole heap of different ovens and brands of ovens. It's almost impossible. It
Oh,
is
really?
nigh on impossible because there's as much as we go to the market, go to the supermarket, go wherever we buy our eggs, free range, grow, get our own from our own chickens, whatever. There are probably more variants in an egg than anything else.
What? Really?
Yeah, well,
A little egg.
Yeah, have a look. Go and buy.
Okay.
I mean, back in the day, eggs used to work in. Back in the day, probably 5 years ago, and this is in Australia. Our eggs would have a gram weight on the carton per egg. Yeah, and so it might say 55 gram or 65 or 70 gram, right? And now they say a total weight of the carton.
I hadn't noticed that. I must
700 gram.
Oh,
Have a look.
okay.
And the problem is that, and this, it's also partly the problem with doing recipes is, in a lot of our recipes, I just put 3 whole eggs. Are they small? Are they pullet eggs? Like pullet eggs they're the first lay of a chicken that has just started laying eggs. They're delicious pullet eggs, very hard to get. But if you, a 65 gram egg and or a 55 gram egg and a 70 gram egg is 2 different volumes of liquid egg. There's 2 different volumes, so it can change the recipe. So eggs are very difficult, and especially if we're talking about a whole egg in a steam oven across various brands, because various brands, as we know, have different temperature tolerances. It is almost impossible to get the perfect soft boil, if you like, or medium boil in a steam oven. I find it very difficult and almost impossible. I can't say to you, go and buy a dozen eggs and put them in for 12 minutes at 90 degrees and you're going to get the perfect medium egg. Or put it in at 85 degrees and put them in for 12 minutes. Same, lower the temperature but up the time, and have a softer egg. And then a soft boil, who knows? But hard boil's easy because you basically just cook the buggery out of it. So that one's the easy one, but the rest is, I find and I know a lot of people that are in this field, combi steam oven field, have done work on it, but I guarantee you that results will be inconsistent across all brands of ovens and all types of eggs. It's almost impossible.
So the only way really is to test before you really need to do it. Could you do that?
Yeah,
Would you get consistent results if you know your oven?
If you know, you're more likely to get consistency
You can
if you
take
know
a
your
note
oven.
of the size of the egg you're putting in.
Yeah, of course.
Test it.
Yeah.
Do a few.
Yeah.
Test them at different
But
temps.
I mean, we're proudly non-brand specific as far as what we do, our website and the recipes and all the rest of it, which is hence why I haven't done a total tutorial on eggs, because unless we get every single manufacturer of oven and find a middle ground, and there's going to be something close, but if we post a recipe that says, okay, if you put your eggs in at 90 degrees for 8 minutes, you're going to have the perfect soft boil. How do I know that you're buying 65 gram eggs and we're using 65 gram or 70 gram? It's nigh on impossible. So yeah, they're difficult. If you test in your own oven and you understand your own oven, you're more likely to get some consistent results. But to be honest with you, if you are doing, like my little fella at home is now just starting to get into having soft-boiled eggs and toast soldiers.
Yep. Yeah, a family favourite all around the world, I think.
Absolutely. And I often ask myself the question when I'm cooking and doing recipes is, am I making it better because I'm using the steam oven? Or am I making life easier? In that situation, I'm better off putting a pot of water on the stove with the eggs in it, bring it up to the boil, cook them for 3 minutes, happy days. I'm not making it better. If I'm working on a mass scale where I'm doing a lot of volume, then fine, there's an argument for it. But for general home cooking, just because you've got the appliance doesn't mean you should use it for everything.
That's a topic that we've talked about before, and I know it's a comment that you've echoed before, and it's true. So,
I hate to repeat myself.
No. I think in this situation, I think it's necessary. One of the issues I loved about eggs, also when you first started cooking in our oven, was doing eggs and bacon, which I had never thought about before. And which I know you did it.
I did it to spite someone, actually. Because that's the motivation we should all have when we create recipes is, why should you do it?
No, it's not, Paul. No, it's not. But it did work out really well.
It did, and they were more like they were closer to a fried egg, really, in that scenario. We did the bacon. Well, bacon works out beautifully in the combi steam oven. Like, it crisps up really well. And I can't remember, and maybe it's from my old restaurant days, but I used to do candied bacon. I think we've done candied bacon a few times before as well. I think I'm pretty sure there's a steamed marlin, which is a fish dish with candied bacon. Check that out if you want.
I'll have to have a check that out.
Yeah, because candied bacon's next level.
Candied bacon.
Yeah, next level good. But those eggs, I'm pretty sure we had a reasonable amount of oil on our, solid baking tray. And we just cracked the eggs in there and threw it in and had the bacon in there about 5 or 7 minutes beforehand. That was crisping up. And then it was kind of one of my attempts at getting a breakfast on a single tray without too much messing around and getting grease splatter on your stove and all the rest of it. Is it better? Yeah, but it was equal to. So that for mine is a pass. If it's equal to what you could do in a stovetop, then fine. Is it better? Yeah, I think the bacon works out better.
I do think it's also the cleaning up afterwards drives me nuts.
Yeah, I'll throw it on a steam clean and
exactly.
Happy days.
So that was why I actually like that method.
And we often, you often talk about, and we often mention Dougie, your husband, who's, what's the nice word for retentive?
Yes.
About cleaning. So yeah, that's a good one.
You might say retentive, I might say OCD, but anyway.
But that's a good one for if first thing on a Saturday morning, if you don't want to have to clean the stove up because bacon's spitting, fat spitting everywhere, and fried oil and all the rest of it. It's good because you just throw it in the oven and steam clean it off, and everyone's happy. So. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of ways we can go about cooking eggs. I think we did also a few recipes where we did like a mini quiche, or we've done quiches as well. They're kind of, I mean, there's quite a few. There's not many things that I will say to people that you have to have in your pantry, but eggs are one. Like, I think you have to have eggs, anchovies, Dijon mustard, sea salt, good olive oil,
Parmesan cheese.
And the funny thing is...
And a brown onion. One brown onion. Otherwise...
So yeah, I'll go shallots before brown onions. But the funny thing is that a lot of that stuff, you take olive oil and parmesan and anchovies and eggs and things like that. Give me those 5 ingredients, and maybe a bit of flour and butter. Really, you're away. Like, you can create all sorts of stuff. And the funniest thing is that all of them are extremely, including Parmesan, and especially Parmesan, are extremely savoury. We're talking about all very, very, what is now the cool term, umami, savoury flavours. And the good thing about eggs is that you can impact flavour with an egg and on top of and around. So eggs do a lot to add to flavours. So when you add an egg to something, it actually helps enrichen. But when you use an egg for, let's say, baking, it helps colour. Like they do the most versatile ingredient. Yeah, no kitchen is right without an egg.
No, I think so too. And for a quick, easy meal when you're really
when you
tired,
can't be bothered cooking, like
when
poached eggs.
When Dougie travels, it's my go-to. A little bit of scrambled egg, parmesan.
Yeah, scrambled eggs. Yeah, there's another one.
But by and large, eggs on their own, and we've only talked about chicken eggs, really. We haven't discussed duck eggs, and I know you are an absolute lover of duck eggs.
Duck eggs is my absolute Boxing Day Christmas ham, fried Christmas ham and duck eggs. Oh.
How do you do your duck eggs? Just out of interest.
Yeah,
okay.
Poached. And duck eggs they're just a bit richer and a bit bigger than a chicken egg. My absolute favourite is pullet eggs, so that's the first layer of a
Where do you
chicken.
find pullet? I don't think I've ever seen pullet
Get them
eggs.
very, very rarely. Very, very rarely. And specialist suppliers will have them at certain times of the year. It's not a seasonal thing. It's like, well, maybe it is, depending on when the chickens have their chicks and when new chicks grow old enough to start laying. So it's essentially the first lay of a chicken. Okay, so that's the first time they're laying, and their eggs are much smaller, but they're uber rich, like super. It's like they're jam packed with flavour, and the yolks are really intense. They're quite significantly smaller, but quite good.
Okay, I've never seen that.
Yeah,
but...
and yet, like, if you see them, just grab them, and just treat them like, don't put them in the cake mixture, because it's not going to, like, it's not that it won't work, but you're wasting something that's got its own extraordinary taste. Like, that sort of egg needs to be poached, scrambled, maybe, but I would say poached. The best for me, and my favourite sort of deathbed dish, steak tartare with a raw egg yolk on top, like a pullet egg yolk on top now, where, like, that's it. Oh yeah,
okay,
that's the one.
Well, I must admit, I've never really cooked with duck eggs until I met you.
I saw an ostrich egg the other day for sale. It was $65. Wasn't game to take that on. It was big, and I've got no idea what you'd do with that.
Ostrich egg.
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense. Well, why don't we have emu eggs more available?
Well, we do. I mean, we do. They are available, but I've got no idea what they're like to eat. I have no concept. And we're talking about big birds with big eggs. I mean, it's just not something that's probably normal for us. Maybe for the indigenous, I don't know. Maybe indigenous.
We should find out, because one of the things that I know you and I have talked about at length is getting more recipes that have Australian native herbs and spices, and we've got a lot in the background going on about that.
But
we didn't discuss emu eggs.
No.
An oversight, maybe.
Well, who knows if it's actually a thing in the indigenous culture, like if they're actually used or if they're cooked or cooked with. I've got no idea. But, yeah, I mean, there's a whole heap of different eggs around, but certainly duck eggs, if you get a chance to get duck eggs are another one. It's just a bit richer.
Okay.
If you poach them, the white's a little bit firmer, but certainly the richness of them is, you don't need to eat. I mean, if I have poached eggs, sometimes 3, maybe 4 might disappear. Like, I love them.
Wow.
Love eggs. But duck eggs, I can maybe get through 2 at best.
Okay.
Quite rich.
They are quite rich, yeah. Okay.
And then, and there's so many things, hollandaise and all the egg emulsifying sauces, the fact that you can make mayonnaise out of an egg. And an egg yolk, when you're making mayonnaise, if you make it correctly, has it will withhold and stand almost an infinite amount of oil. So,
wow.
If you have one egg yolk and you actually start your mayonnaise and get your mayonnaise correct, and you have mustard in there and vinegar like you would usually make a mayonnaise, and you use a vegetable oil, a rice bran, a cottonseed or whatever, like a taste neutral oil, if you make that mayonnaise correctly, that egg yolk will emulsify and hold together that mayonnaise with almost an infinite amount of oil. You can almost do 5 litres of mayonnaise out of one egg yolk. I don't
want to try that at home.
Yeah, but you could probably do it. Like, you probably do it, but it's almost an infinite amount.
Okay.
Now, you get into trouble and difficulty when we're making hollandaise sauces, which is an emulsion sauce as well, but that's done with heat versus a mayonnaise, which is cool. And just for a tip for anyone making mayonnaise or hollandaise, a lot of people get into the trouble of splitting. So that's where the oil or the fat separates from the yolk. Little tip for everyone out there: if you are making a mayonnaise, which is a cold emulsion sauce, if it begins to split, add some warm or hot water. If you are making a hot emulsion sauce like a hollandaise, if it begins to split, add some cold water, and you may well be able to bring them back.
Okay.
So it's the opposite of what you are actually doing. So if you're making a cold emulsion sauce, add a heated liquid, water is the best. If you are making a cold emulsion, a hot emulsion sauce, cold liquid, a cold emulsion sauce, hot liquid.
One of the recipes I know you did this week, but I know you'd made them earlier a couple of weeks ago, and I was surprised when I saw you these little cheese balls, and you had quite hot dough coming out of the oven that you then worked, and I was really surprised because when I was watching you, we were having a catch up, and I could see you just throwing in the eggs, and I could see the steam coming up.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, but I thought, no, I know not to.
I'll save it up for this because otherwise we're going to have nothing to talk about.
I did actually,
yeah.
But I wondered why, because I would have just waited for that dough to cool a bit, but you were it was moving and you were just throwing in that egg, and I would have thought it would start cooking in the egg before you'd had a chance to really get the eggs in.
But you've answered your own question.
I did.
Yeah.
I didn't know I'd even ask a question. But
well, no, you've answered the potential query or question you had, is movement.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so essentially it's kind of very similar to a choux pastry, which is very egg heavy, considering the quantities. So, and to be honest with you, I do it the lazy way. So I'll make my base choux dough, which is, depending on what you're making, but generally water, butter, flour, and sometimes a mix of water and milk, butter and flour, and you cook that out, and then while it's still warm you add your eggs, and you can do it by hand, but I throw it in the mixer because it's much easier and you get much more movement. If you add a room temperature egg to a hot dough and don't mix it fast enough, you end up with cooked egg if it doesn't get the movement in there. And remember, when you're got a dough like that with a lot of movement, there's a lot of air moving around and a lot of airflow happening, and the sooner that we're almost emulsifying it into the dough, the sooner you get a lot of relatively fast movement, you've got cooler air going in there, and the egg doesn't have a chance to actually cook before it emulsifies. So hence, if you are making a choux pastry, or you do end up doing the little sort of, I mean, they're not cheesy puffs, but we'll call them that because I'm not going to make you say the word.
Thank you.
Gougere.
You and your French words.
It's traditional, Linda.
I know it is.
Have respect.
But
have some respect.
I struggle with English.
If you can get them in quickly and get them mixed through quickly, your egg is less likely to actually have streaks of cooked egg through your dough, which is what can happen sometimes.
Okay, well that made sense. Thanks for that.
No worries.
No wonder you're the chef and I'm not. But thanks for that. And I think that wraps up today's topic on eggs. So thank you so much for that, Paul.
No worries. We'll probably revisit the topic at some stage as well because it's never ending with eggs.
Well, I know that now that we've been talking
Pasta
about
dough,
it, I must say I'm going to go home, and this weekend I think there's going to be a little bit of a cook-up on Sunday morning.
Doug's going to be eating eggs all weekend.
Oh, yeah, because it's just got you inspired. So thank you for that, Paul.
No worries.
See you later.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to this podcast as we explore home cooking in a modern world. We'd love you to subscribe, and for more information, please go to our website, cookingwithsteam.com.